Good evening from our headquarters in Kiev. This is the special edition of the Sunday show at Dramatsky International, the only prime-time TV program explaining Eastern European geopolitical storm in English, and I'm Natalia Humenyuk. And today we definitely have a special broadcast devoted to the snap elections. So Ukraine is voting for 424 MPs at the moment. Half of them would be voted according to the party list, a bit more than a half, and 199 according to constituency. Therefore, we won't know the results already at 8 p.m. Till then, according to the Ukrainian legislation, we are not allowed to tell you any data about the prospects of the parties. However, we are looking whether we are closely waiting if some of the parties would make it to the parliament. There is a margin of error to quite a few political parties, and they need to get at least 5% in order to represent Ukrainian population. I probably would like again to show the picture on how the how the seats are distributed in the Ukrainian parliament. So there are 225 MPs who are voted in the Rada according to the party lists, and we have at least 5 parties who have huge chances to make it, and 199 people who would be voted in their constituencies. There are 3,200 candidates running, more than half of them they are supported by the parties, the rest are independent, so there would be an extremely busy night and the next day for Central Election Commission, for the local commissions, in order to know who are those people. I should also mention that the new parliament would start work not earlier than in a month and not later than in 2 months. And I would like to introduce our panel. So we had a great panel with Bohdan Nahaylo, who is a British-Ukrainian journalist and a veteran Ukraine watcher, as well as Marta Dyczok, who is as well a great Canadian journalist and today is a professor at Western University and a media expert. And Vita Dumanska is the analyst at Chesno election watchdog organization, helps us to make sense of all the elections, as well as Maksym Panchenko, an analyst at the UkraineWorld project. Probably for our audience, just explain what is at stake. Maybe Bohdan, you start.
Well, I think this is about change. I think this election is about confirming the move towards change that was already highlighted by the election in a landslide victory by President Zelenskyy. It's about moving forward, breaking with the past, but unfortunately we are still having the election held under the old laws, the old election code, which doesn't come into effect until the end of 2023, meaning that the old system will still produce corrupt, shall we say, unreliable candidates who may be the spoilers in the pack. And today we have, as you've rightly noted, we have over 200 deputies who will be elected from the party lists, many of them newcomers, total newcomers, but 199, many of whom are fighting not so much for their political survival, but even to stay out of prison, because many of them are linked with corruption.
Marta, you are, first of all, a media expert, and we'll talk about the media. Still, for our audience, would you explain what is at stake? You're following Ukraine for so many years.
Well, every election is important, but I think in this election, the role of the media really has been what stands out for me. That we have freedom of speech in Ukraine, we have pluralism, and yet we have such intense polarization that the average person, how can they know who to vote for? You change a different channel, you get different information. And the monitors have been showing that there's been organizations monitoring the media, that there's been extreme bias. And the owners of the media outlets, they really put forth their editorial positions, their preferences. So I think if I was a voter in Ukraine, I would have to be watching all the different channels to get all the different perspectives, and I would do nothing else other than watching television. So the media story, I think, is a big part of what the results will show.
Vita, we would talk about the kind of a violation the organization is following, but still, to what extent this parliament would be new?
You see, we were monitoring a list of the 2 key parties who told that they won't take with them MPs or current MPs, and we found in their list, like I'm talking about Servant of the People Party and Golos Party, about 100 assistant to the MPs. So they are not so new. They have a bit of experience working at the parliament, so that might be like a good point. But some assistants were not to so good deputies. That's also an issue. But I think that's really a cool chance to like reload Verkhovna Rada, reload our parliament. But still we have this opposition bloc and other forces that are like totally old system, and they have like a lot of problematic candidates in their list.
And with the problematic candidates, and we're not just really supporting any party, and this is a kind of a day we're not really giving really our analysis on that, but what do you mean by that?
You see, as told colleague, the key problem is majoritarian component, because all these violation, unfair stuff, they are connected with the majoritarian candidates. We have very high competition. If those parties, they are not taking all MPs still want to be re-elected. So we have a couple constituencies where we have competition among 3 MPs, which are going to be elected on the that constituency. A lot of majoritarian districts with 2 MPs competing. So that's like a really new story to Ukraine, because before we had probably mostly one candidate, one majoritarian candidate, one MP who is running for the office. But now there is strong competition. And all those...
Competition is a good thing, though.
Competition is a good thing, but that competition leads to very dirty techniques, like vote buying, like different stuff we see in the districts.
But this isn't really competition. I mean, these are the old guys from the old system who want to secure their places for the time being. They know things will change.
Want to be imprisoned,
because almost immediately, I assume that the new government and the new political forces will change the political code. And they know that this is their last chance to get in, to get their share of the pie, and also to avoid prosecution in many cases. And that's I don't agree with Marta about this being so important from media point of view. Nothing has really changed over the last few years. The media has always been in the hands, essentially, apart from the independent media, in the hands of the oligarchs, right? So the channels haven't changed. If anything, it's got worse because Medvedchuk has arrived on the scene, has bought some channels, etc. But essentially, people are not really basing themselves on their favorite channels. They're looking more and more to the internet, to the social media, to their friends. So I don't think media is an important aspect of this election. I think what is the crucial thing is the old and the new. People are fed up, they want change. They gave a lot of credit to the people that came into the parliament after the Revolution of Dignity. They were disappointed, and they've had enough of that. So they're prepared to risk even not knowing what the future holds.
So how would you explain to our audience what are these elections about, first of all?
Well, for me, I think the best way to characterize it would be a kind of a leap of faith we're taking today. Because on the one hand, we have an unprecedented chance to change the things in the country. But on the other hand, there are a couple of risks, and they're very substantial. First of all, the election campaign has been very, very short as compared to how it was usually previously, because it is a snap election. So
was it short in 2014?
Well, those were
Definitely shorter.
Yes,
2014 was in November.
But you can also argue that this campaign was preceded by the presidential one, which was, preparation for this one. So we've had months and months of campaigning.
Yes, that's true. But what I mean by this is that many parties did not have enough time to propound any matters to position themselves on the arena. Like, for instance, the Sviatoslav Vakrachuk party was only announced to participate in the elections only like mid-May, I think. So they did not really have much time. And the second risk I would like to mention is that people are now placing their confidence in the charisma of leaders, but they do not really know, in many instances, what exactly they are going to be casting their ballots for.
But this was the case in the past. When have we ever had ideologically based parties in Ukraine?
It's not a question of ideologically based. It's a question of
they're voting for
information.
leaders, and we are moving away from that because at least the new forces, whether it be Zelenskyy or Vakarchuk, are saying that we have to dispense with this. Though they are still doing it in this election, they are saying that we need to build parties on values, on ideology, and on strategies.
They're not saying what their ideology is or what their values are. All they're saying
much
is
more
change
than until now.
And anti-corruption.
I agree.
And
I
it's
agree
very
that it has
broad
also.
strokes.
I agree that it also. It has always been like that people voted for people with charisma, but on the other hand, these people
with
always...
images, with
yes,
images.
Yes, but on the other hand...
images. That's why we have singers and sports people in parliament.
Okay, just to say that before we get it, because we would like also to know whether there were violations, to what extent the campaign is dirty, as always people are looking at Ukraine. Still, I would ask, according to the recent poll, which was interesting, the group of rating, that was the first time in the Ukrainian history people think that the country is moving in the right direction. But what are these elections are about for you, if you observe it? Is it economy? Is it like kind of a geopolitical choice, which probably is to a less extent? You know? So where you see the kind of the key issues for the campaign, for the people?
You see, I can say from my perspective, campaign was very short, and like more than half of campaign we were talking about names. We had like very, very small discussion about their platforms, about the economy perspectives. So basically, that's really important. People matter, but the platform and their like vision of the country development for the next 5 years, as I can say, they were not discussed very well. That's one point.
Just with a very short explanation, what do you think are the key topics for this? Not even for the parties, for the people.
Well, people want change. I mean, that's clear. People always want change. That's why there's always new, I mean, Ukraine is democratic in the sense they're always electing new presidents, new parliaments. So there's this desire for change. Everyone's tired of the war. The question is, what are the solutions that are being proposed? And that's where we're not hearing the answers.
Maksym.
I think that the key point of this election is, as has already been said, our values. And on the one hand, it is a very good thing because we're speaking about, like, you know, cutting ties with the past. But on the other hand, this approach lacks specificity. We do not know like many specific things about what we will do in our economy. What are the specific propositions from the politicians about our geopolitical, stance, the details of it. And I mean, so it's more like about values.
I think this is about change, but change in the sense of getting away from corruption, hypocrisy, and disillusionment. There has been a colossal collapse in public confidence in institutions, in the parliament, 4%, 5%, according to the reports, and in public figures. So this election is about restoring public confidence. It's about generational change. Whether these people that come, the new people, are equipped, whether they know how to do it is another matter. But it is a generational thing, and it is a very definite break with the past and the old values. Look, even in the terms, we won't name them, the parties that are coming out as the top 5, many of the names from before haven't made it. This is going to be a qualitatively different parliament, even if we have holdovers from the past. The movement is there, and this election, I think, is just a continuation of a process we've seen for at least the last 6 months. A total disillusionment with those that didn't deliver on the promises and pledges and commitments to their own people, to Europe, after the Maidan and the Revolution of Dignity.
Like to add just one comment. You're talking about change, but what is change? So we don't have any measurement of change. Change in what area? And afterwards, people will be disappointed because changes. So they don't know what to change, and changes won't be achieved, and that's why.
I think
I
think it's clearer than that. Don't steal. have laws, have courts that you can actually rely on, that are independent. Look at the mess we've seen in the last few weeks and months. You know, who's responsible for that? The legal reform didn't end, and it's hard to say who is dictating to the judges to make their judgments about Kolomoisky's bank, or about allowing some disreputable deputies to stand for parliament. It's a mess. So people are fed up of that, and for the first time, I think we have people of an older generation fed up, and a younger people with the dynamism and energy coming in, joining together. That's why we had 73% voting against Poroshenko.
Just to get into the, not into the discussion, but to finalize, I probably encourage all of you to watch Hromadske International, en.hromadske.ua, with all our projects on elections. We've done the series on the party list and on the party funding. I also encourage you, so there way you can go. I encourage you also to support our project, but the most important things, of course, you can help to support independent media, but the most important for me is that you watch the stories about what are people's concern, and from that probably we 100% explain that there are two things people care: it's the economy and the war. But we have on the online with us Olga Ivazovska, who is chairman of the board of the network Opora, which is one of the main election watchdogs. Olga, thanks a lot for being with us. Please explain, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, Olga, so of course it's a phone connection. I know you're very busy today, but can you give the understanding for our foreign audience what's happening with the violation during these days, to what extent these elections, and especially election day, we have like a fair vote? And what are your concerns you can raise?
Civil network Opora observed the national-wide election from 2007. That's why we have a different ratings or different type of violation, which can be, which we can compare between each of the electoral circles. And the boring and good elections if we have on top position violation of electoral advertising or agitation. So now we have this position on the top high list of violations. And we can compare such position with 2014, because, for example, in 2012, on top position, we had misusing of state resources, which showed us that we do not have like a clear vertical of administrative power. That's why elections are very competitive. At the same time, we have 5,966 candidates. And this competition on the level of single mandate districts sometimes are not very well assessment as according to legislation, but it depends on the region or depends on constituency. On the second type of violation is the voter bribery, but the numbers of such violation which we collected during the whole electoral process is near 200. At the same time, there is a strong position of national police to investigate it, and we had the criminal cases were opened during this process, and we have a total number near 300 such cases. And our organization collected the data about misusing of state budget resources or local resources of local self-government levels, but now it's only 44 cases during whole electoral process. During electoral days, of course, we collected the data from the ground, from polling station, and we have statistic-based observation on this level. That's why the percentages of violation are representative for whole Ukraine. On the first position, for example, during presidential election was photos of the ballots or unsecret voting. Now we have only 0.3% of the polling station with photos of the ballots. Why it's important? Because first of all, it's against the legislation. On the second level, it might be like indicator that someone sells the vote. That's why they have to photo the ballot and to send it to the third parties who bribe the voters. And we have had a penalty even for the current president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, when he showed the ballot on the polling station. And the level of such violation is decreasing because of the results of investigation on those days. But the competition...
So probably, we got the main of you. It's quite hard to get with the phone call, but thanks a lot for letting us know what are the most important and how we can describe the level of violations, or if things are happening. There would be a lot of happening on the constituencies. So I also suggest our audience to watch our publication and also our social media. They would be there during the night and when the things might happen. Still, probably Vita, you would be the first to say that now in Ukraine, it's not the most important, the election day. If you speak about the election, it's about the party funding and other things. What you've observed as a watchdog?
So you see, we can, as a watchdog, this campaign is quite expensive, but probably not everything will be declared, that for sure. We are monitoring social media, and officially we had this silence day, but actually we don't. For example, like couple of parties have couple hundred promo videos for tomorrow and today. That's really big volume of political advertisement. Some of them have like 30 or 40 paid advertisement which are spreading around the internet today and tomorrow and the day before and yesterday. The issue is that the party still pay about 80% of their costs for TV advertisement. That's really a really big share of their expenditures. And we are monitoring the 17 national TV channels, and we see a couple thousand of promo video. It's extremely high volume, especially like 3 days before election. Okay. So we are overloaded with advertisement.
Could I just add three of my concerns in bullet point form to add to that? I think, first of all, that let's hope that the turnout is at least over 50%. It seems as if it might be a low turnout. Under 50% doesn't look good, etc. But let's hope it's over 50%. Secondly, I think there's what I've written about this week elsewhere, there's the revenge factor. Various parties amongst themselves are scoring points, are settling differences, and I hope that that is not going to distract attention from the need to build alliances and to move forward. Thirdly, I think there is a very big danger, without naming the party, that if they come into second place, one of their candidates who is very close to the Russian leader might become the deputy speaker, which could cause rifts in society.
Yeah. So what would be your final to say? Where are we looking at?
Well, I think we need to look at the broader picture of what will be possible now that the president has the support, or potentially will have the support of the parliament. And at least it will be much more cooperative than the previous one. And I think in this sense, much more can be done. So we can expect many more initiatives, potentially much more change that has been strived for so long. So I think that's it, that we have to prepare for that.
Where you would look at, apart from the media?
Well, I think what we're likely to see with this parliament for the first time is there will be a majority or close to a majority. So the president is going to have a lot of support in parliament, and he's going to have a lot of power. So I think that's what we're going to watch for, what he's going to do, because polls are showing that his political party is going to get the majority, or a large chunk of the vote. So we're going to have power concentrated, and so that's, I think, going to be a shift in Ukraine's political scene, and that's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out.
I would suggest that that's only going to be on the surface, because in the last parliament, the former president had a lot of power. It wasn't just the deputies pressing illegally the buttons. It was the oligarchs and the president who were pressing the buttons. And we have a mixed parliamentary presidential system. And if President Zelensky's people do get a substantial majority and in alliance have a constitutional majority, they are committed to moving towards a parliamentary system. And this is also a test of shall we say, the intentions? Will they concentrate power in their hands, as you suggest, or will they actually deliver on promises and move towards a parliamentary system?
Just before, Vita probably also need to explain that indeed for some of the changes announced by some of the leaders of the race, they need a constitutional majority. It's 2/3 of the parliament, which is really a lot. So indeed any kind of coalition still looks like needed. We'll definitely discuss the coalition in the next program. Where will you look at the next day what the people should follow?
First, they had very promising platforms. I would like to suggest follow their platforms and implementation. Like, they declared very bright first steps. So let's make them and check them.
Maksym.
Yes, I think that, well, we'll see what the results are, but I think that we should pin the parties down to their promises and to look how they live up to what they made people expect. And I think, well, that's what the Ukrainian nation, I think, in general has to learn to do, because I don't think this is in our bones, not necessarily our tradition, but I think that is a very useful thing to do from now on.
I think what is different about this election is that several of the parties have actually invited and urged the civil society and others to monitor them, their candidates, and to be the watchdogs. If this isn't just bluff pre-election posturing, then this is something new, if they are going to be more accountable than was the case 4 or 5 years ago. Because what we need is a re-energizing of civil society and a re-energizing of the values of true journalism.
So thanks a lot. The discussion is quite limited, those we don't have result, but I would say that in a week, we will have a discussion which would analyze the potential of the coalition, the government and the government, which we might have already in September. So stay tuned. But for tonight, follow our Facebook and Twitter, Informatica International as well. Also follow our webpage where all the updates. Look at the violation, understand to what extent they are big or minor. All they are important. There are 21 international organizations monitoring those elections. We will keep you informed. And it's not allowed to announce any results earlier than 8 p.m. in Kyiv, but be aware, I would warn this time, be aware with the exit poll, because so much depends on the constituencies and the margin of error is so small that the results tomorrow announced could be quite different. So thanks a lot. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot for coming during this busy day for all of you.
Thank you.